Ganesh from Full Show Energy Work.
And this is Kirti from Dil Se Culture.
And we are coming to you today to talk to you and give you an update on our Honest Relating video. We did that a couple of months ago, and we definitely have had some breakthroughs and things that we just want to share with you all as far as like how that's going for us, because some of you reached out, had questions, and it is kind of a hot topic. You know, a lot of us, especially those of us doing inner work, I feel like it may resonate with you in some way, but it also can be kind of challenging and a little scary or whatever. So we just wanted a little frightening. So we wanted to update you all. So Kirti, I guess we can start with you. And like you said before, you're a storyteller. So do you wanna...
I was just going to maybe provide a little bit of a narrative of what got me to the end point, which it's not even an end point, right? It's ever evolving, but the place I'm at now, which is really the search for, self-love, and how this process has really made that even more important, and understanding that the biggest part of honest relating, monogamy, open relating, polyamory, whatever you want to call relationships with others, is truly the relationship with yourself. And that has been so beautiful for me to, you can read that in books growing up, and you can hear that in talks and in sermons, but not unless you really have an experience that lets you feel that. It's like, oh, that simple statement can be so profound of self-love and respect. So I guess the story begins with after the last video, we were super inspired by the philosophies and understandings of being open and honest within partnership, about attractions, about connections with other people, and being able to connect with them and not feel guilty and bad coming home that you're connecting with other people, or even among friendships, like among girlfriends. Sometimes you're hanging out with one girlfriend and you're like really connecting and bonding, and then you'll hang out with another girlfriend, and one girlfriend might take that personally, and then it's like, oh man, you're trying to manage groups. Like, friends seem so much easier to manage, but when you are older and you're connecting on lots of different ways of connections that are always happening with people, how to like really feel fully expressed and be with somebody that you're really interested in and that you have a great connection with. So that was where we were at, and we both had different histories. Shofar, for him, monogamy was something new to traverse, and for me,
still is. Still is.
For me, this is true, and for me, I've been in long monogamous marriage-like partnerships, and so for me, when I met Shofar, I was all about like, I clearly keep trying to get a job with this company and the monogamy company, and I keep getting laid off. I'm ready to look into a new career. I just kind of was like a little dazed and confused. So when we met, it was an ideal time to explore all those things. So we knew, we read some books, we listened to podcasts, we had some people we followed, we have our own spiritual foundation that's really strong, and so we decided to embark on that on our own, and that shit backfired. It backfired in a lot of ways, and when I say backfired, it's not to scare you that like, oh yeah, see, and that's why you don't do that. It was almost like it backfired because we thought we were so ready, and what we realized was that we are so ready to realize that we're not ready. And not ready in the sense of the levels of connecting with another person are beautiful steps towards a magnificent palace and archway into a divine understanding of another person and their purpose on this planet. And all beings deserve that respect and that honoring of walking the steps of who they are and meeting them at their throne of their divinity and being like, this is who I am. And those each step of that journey is deep and an intimate one. And through the work with coaching, I think we really got to understand and appreciate the process that it requires to be fully present. And so part of the situation was we went ahead and went for it, in terms of going out with either, you know, new folks or people from the past. And a lot of the rules and the guidelines we had set up, what I noticed for myself, a lot of the rules and guidelines was setting up was a lot of self-sabotage, and was coming from a place of being wounded, and a long and almost like decades of wounding. You know, maybe I know that with my family was definitely not intentional. All of it was not intentional. A lot of it was like how I processed it as a child, but then like as a teenager, how I replayed that, and then as an adult, how I recreated that, right? So that wounding, and then like a lot of the guidelines and rules I was creating was almost so I could repeat that pattern instead of taking a step back and thinking, okay, what am I really trying to create, and what do I want to feel moving forward? It was mostly more of, well, this is what I felt, so I need to create rules and guidelines to never feel those things again. And because I was creating those rules, Shofar was really trying to satisfy all of the guidelines and rules. And what was really happening was I was flip-flopping. And the truth was, I wasn't really clear with where was I really at with the appreciation of myself. Like, how strong was that, so that regardless of whatever rules you set forth in a relationship, whether or not somebody follows them or breaks them, you're good. And that part, those beginning steps of my own foundation were quite shaky. That I clearly was not good. So when we went through that, and I realized how kind of hurt I was, we was just like, hey, let's get coaching, because while we get a lot, we also teachers need teachers, coaches need coaches, healers need healers, you know.
Yeah, you can get the dirt off of someone else's back. Doesn't mean that you don't still have some on your back to get to, and you might not quite be able to get to it. So that's why, you know, even amongst coaching, you know, so those of you out there looking for mentors or looking for coaches, make sure your mentors, make sure your coaches have mentors and coaches. You know, we all need help. You all need help.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what helped. The coaching really helped. The process was really beautiful, and I think we could make a whole nother video about so many of the processes that we were inspired by with this coaching program. And actually, if you're interested, just look up Progressive Love Academy, and so many amazing tools and resources there. But what of the most beautiful tools I felt like was so much of the women empowerment piece for myself, of acknowledging that it is totally okay for me to be wild, to be emotional, to rant, to feel things and go off about them, and to express. And it's totally okay to do that. And I can actually get support from the person who I really, you know, need support from the most, if I'm able to understand that, where all of that's coming from, and then like set up the conversation and the space to do so that the other person is prepared to like hold almost like a, you know, people say hold a container or hold space or create a room of comfort, so that they know not take it personally, and I can come and just like take off these layers of things before I can be okay with my partner, you know, going out and maybe shaking up some of my foundational things of my own self-worth.
Right. Right. Yeah, one of the things that this type of relating is going to do is going to shake foundations. It's going to uproot some things, so that we can reposition and actually take our roots deeper, and build a stronger foundation. So definitely in intimate relating, or with this type of relating, anytime we're talking about opening and introducing new energies into a relating and everything, one of the things that I got from it is definitely to take our time. And like Kirti was saying earlier, is like there is an emphasis a lot of times in the open relating or poly community. Not all people, but a lot of us, we're actually just looking to have more sex. Nothing wrong with that, but once you start to build some foundation, some roots with one person, before you introduce another energy into there or start making more connections, I think it is a really important thing to be really well rooted with who you're already with, and first, and also in yourself, and then really be clear on like, why am I doing this? Like,
Right.
especially if we're just new in our relating, and by new I mean 5 years or younger, maybe even, you know, say 3 years or younger. Like, why so early are we even looking to this yet? You know, because maybe you don't want to be, you know, you want to be in a relating with this person yet. You know, if we're already looking to introduce other energies already, you know, so that's one thing to get clear on. And then the other thing is to know that most of us have lots of energy, insecurities, things that are going to trigger us around relating.
Right.
And not just us, ancestrally, like our parents and our grandparents do. We come from a society that has been taught the princess and the prince, and so going against that, there's a lot of inertia.
Right.
You know, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a emotion in motion tends to stay in motion,
Right.
and a thought, mind in motion tends to stay in motion. So, just thinking that we're going to stop the brakes, and yes, because this sounds intellectually, we get it. It's like, oh yeah, I should be able to relate to more than one person on different levels of connection. That makes a lot of intellectual sense to a lot of us. But now, can we actually do that? That's something we have to be honest with ourselves about.
Right. When we actually get, and I believe that that's what's really beautiful about the processes that we were able to practice with Progressive Love Academy. And what was really great was, I think we also noticed that so many of those processes that we practiced them with clients, and it was such a good reflective practice to practice them with each other and actually with a real situation versus, you know, working with, for me, working with a female body client about dealing with some feminine issues, and maybe Shofar working, you know, with a men's group or something like that. It was really good to be working with each other, and then also just see how, like, you can talk to somebody else and have really great advice, but when you put yourself in the fire and the flame, a lot of times the mirrors that show up are pretty intense. And so I think that a great place for us to move into is some of the deeper realizations. I definitely had deeper realizations I've already touched on about self-love, and I know that Shofar, we talked about deeper realizations with you in terms of like managing more than even the idea of like, what will it take to bring in another energy, like what type of resourcing you would have to do for that. And that was like something big that you said you had come to.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit on that. So first off is the time. If you don't have a situation where everybody is on board and everyone is communicating, so right off the bat, then you're talking about split energy. You know, like it has to be, I think, a certain level of agreement between all parties involved before you should even go down that path. And so, biggest resource that, you know, you can get back money, you can't get back time. And time is very, very precious when you already have someone in your family, someone that you love.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking
family.
about someone that you're talking about introducing another energy or another person and drawing a connection there, we need to be real about that, you know, as far as the time thing. And also, you know, really being honest about connection, because I feel like, again, what I got clear on is understanding about the connection with sex. And that, and the energy work for me had kind of helped me with this through the process of it. It helped me, like, through the years, it's helped me get more and more clear about how important and how connective sensual emotional exchange with sex can be. That's why I actually started calling it sensual emotional exchange. And if we're in a place where we still just want to connect with our genitals, that's fine. But getting really clear on that and going deeper into that. And then lastly, I would say is that the other realization that came to the forefront for me is really just being grateful where I'm at already, and allowing myself to develop other parts of my being before going out and trying to connect with someone else. You know, because this showed back to me, like, there's different things that when we would have our venting and things like that, is like, wow, not only from a time place, you've got to be able to be emotionally able to show up, especially for the masculine, to be able to process your own emotions, and then to help the feminine in yourself and in your lady or ladies, you know, to be able to, you know, or if it's a brotherhood, if she brings in another guy, you've got to be able to process all that emotionally. Take time.
Yeah, and I think that the taking the time piece is also really relevant to how do you really feel about it. So many times I think in a male-female setup and relationship, you know, it's almost that the more masculine, the partner that carries more of the masculine energy goes ahead and does this, while the feminine energy is, you know, kind of, it's just this socially accepted thing that, like, oh, that's what they do. And so I think that taking the time to get to know each other, we actually started to realize that we're not that different. And a lot of the things that he desires, I also desire, yet I haven't been allowed in society. And then for me personally, I would even add, you know, me with my cultural background, haven't been able to really celebrate if I was more like him. You know, in that case, we are labeled as, you know, cheap or sluttish. You know, for a woman to be, so for a lot of our followers, this is very basic stuff, but like for a woman to be sexually empowered, you know, she's slutty, whereas for a man, you know, he's a player, and it's just that whole concept. So to slow down and set up spaces where we're both able to talk about that and the dynamics of that, and both of us can kind of like express all the emotions we have about that, and have the other person just listen, was so huge. It really helped us slow down, because now, you know, when I go out and I find myself immediately using my toolboxes of attraction to gain a man's attention, which now Shofar has already vented to me how that is so confusing when women do that. But yet I'm like, but we're trained to be that way, right? And we've had this whole vent. Now when I'm out there in the field practicing and it comes up, I'm like, oh, and I actually have developed empathy for Shofar. So I'm like, oh, these are those moments. And I actually see Shofar in that man, and will reframe and restructure the way I'm talking. And that is all a part of that slowing down process. Instead of just, I think, I want, I act. Instead of being, I think, I want, I act, it's more just like, I feel. What do I want? Okay, like, where are we at? What's going on? Taking the time and really thinking about, okay, how does this affect, you know, how is this affecting all parts of me, and all the, and just even that process of thinking will slow us down to a place where we can think, is it truly in alignment with what I want? And on that note, with the self-love part of it, the scarcity mindset was really coming clear for me, where it was, I realized the root of my jealousy was because I really didn't think there was enough. And that I have worked so hard to be such a good person or a good woman, you know, and slowly, as I'm doing more work, before it was, I'm a good South Asian, children of immigrants, woman of color in America. Now it's slowly like, I'm a good human. It's like all of those labels are just getting burned away, because I'm starting to realize, like, this is a human dilemma on the planet, you know, the scarcity mindset that there's not enough for any of us. So just understanding that scarcity piece of jealousy, and like, the truth is that if I truly love myself fully and completely, which I do, oh my gosh, and working on that all the time, there is plenty. There's plenty. And for my partner to recognize and witness that there is plenty is his choice. Right. But I know that there is plenty here. And regardless of what happens, all is well, no matter what, in that way. And so I like that term. I'm unfuckwithable. You know, we've been, I think, how many weeks in? 10 weeks on the, you know, I'd say this is actually week 12 on this process and on this path. And it's been beautiful and heart-opening. And I feel closer to you as another human being more than anything. So I'd say, yeah, man, stretch yourself where you don't break yourself in life.
Stretch yourself, fool.
Be open
but
to
don't
new
break yourself.
Yeah, be open to new experiences that really put you in the fire of your own realization and understanding.
Yeah, because just keep in mind that sometimes we will set up our relationships to be in a way that they domesticate us and that they don't stretch us, but they keep us safe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like keeping the little dog that you know is not going to be able to make it out there in the wild. So you keep it in, you know, because the coyotes or whatever, it'll be lunch real quick. You know, and that's the same thing we do with our relating, is that we made it small and we made it where it can't protect itself or whatever. So we want to actually start being able to get out and make ourselves stronger, but do that in processes. So I love what you're saying there, Kirti. And one other thing that I wanted to bring out there or share at this time is just alignment with purpose. When we get more clear with the masculine energy in both people, as we get more clear about what it is that we want, we seek to align with purpose, both in ourselves and then with each other. And any other energies, it has to align with purpose. And being very clear and honest with ourselves, I don't care how big the booty is or how handsome the guy is, like, does it align with purpose? And being very clear about that, you know. And
right.
When we start to do that, we're going to see that there's probably not as many people that match up for your purpose as, not that there's a scarcity of it, but there's going to be people that there's a definite yes for, like for friendships or then, you know, other levels down the road. And there's going to be a lot that are not, you know, as we really run it through that filter of alignment with purpose. And that's very important.
Yeah, and I think that the more that you're aligned with your purpose, the scarcity piece tends to also naturally fall away, because when you're aligned with your purpose, or, you know, and for some folks it's just like, what do you mean aligned with your purpose? But when you're in the place where time passes, we talked about that in the first video, when you're doing something where time passes and you don't even notice time is passing because of what you're doing, you're so engaged in that flow state. So those things that bring you that, when you're aligned in that, you are literally filling up your own inner being with, it's almost like deposits of energy and willingness to expand and stretch. Willingness. So, you know, the more you are doing something for other people, that's very interesting. We were just talking about that's very contractual. When you're doing things for other people, it's very contractual, and you're contracting your energy, and it's becoming smaller. But the more that you're aligned with your purpose and you're in that creative space of expansion, you know, you're actually now in the place where you can stretch yourself but not break yourself. Right? Because you're willing to go there. And that actually takes that scarcity mindset, which is contractual, and it's like, scarcity is I don't have enough, and what do I have to do to keep it coming in? Whereas abundance mindset is that always realizing that it is always growing. It is always evolving. And no matter what happens, all is well. It's how we got here to this moment right now. So when you're aligned with that purpose, when you're aligned with your purpose, you have that abundance mindset, because, you know, it's like if you're a dancer, you're never worried about not thinking of a dance move tomorrow. I'm not worried about, oh man, am I going to be inspired by a dancer tomorrow? I'm not, because I'm a dancer. I love to cook. I'm never worried that I won't be able to come up with a meal, right? So when you're aligned with your purpose, you always know there's enough because you know how to create that. So really finding that. And what's beautiful about that is then you're abundant, then you're not fuckwithable. And the most beautiful part about that is now you've aligned the chakras, you know, in terms of the energy centers of all of your existence is understanding what you're here for, and now your radio channel, your beam goes out there, and then the people are magnetized to your radio frequency. They hear your radio station, they're like, I love the way that sounds, and now they're coming into you, and you're not like, oh, someone likes me, what do I have to do to make them like me? It's more like, I like myself, and I'm attracting other people who like that I like myself.
I see.
And when you're in partnership and you do that, that person that you beam in is only going to up-level your partnership as well. And we need to really get out of this idea that connecting is all about the genitals and sexuality. It could be a big part of it. But I know for me, this whole process so far has been so much about like, wow, being able to, and I think it's maybe because I'm the more feminine energy in this relationship, but for me, the ability to have been able to be with men and it not be sexual has been priceless. And connect with them in other ways and be able to speak my truth to them and say, there's attraction here and this is where I'm at, and I hope we can continue to be friends. And I hope we can continue to build this connection that's clearly, it's intriguing and romantic, and I'm clear that this is where I'm at. I have struggled with that so much, so that's been like such a big thing for me, you know?
Yes. And I think in that, you know, there's definitely wisdom in allowing the feminine to do this process while the masculine, us having to work through the different insecurities and things that it brings up in that process, because like Kirti alluded to earlier, there's definitely an emphasis on in this culture like men doing this, you know, and basically being polygamous, but when it comes to the feminine actually pursuing these different, you know, and being even available and making herself available to this energy.
Well, I mean, we were burned for that. Women are still stoned for that.
Right now on this planet.
I mean, people dig holes where only the head is exposed, and the community throws rocks at the woman's head for, you know, talking to another man. I mean, women have been branded, you know, with metal for...
With metal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You know, ooh. So, you know, it's a deep wound to traverse. And so, again, taking your time, because how much more powerful can this process be if you can actually heal each other through past generations of woundings.
Exactly. And with that, y'all, we go ahead and close it down for this time. This is going to be a journey. You know, notice how the word journey has joy in it. You know, this is going to be a journey. This is going to take updates. This is going to have peaks and valleys and all different, you know, points and frequencies and colors and hues in between.
Yeah.
And we'll share that with you all, you know, in time and everything. And you will see video. You may see Kirti with another guy or lady sometime doing videos, and maybe the same for me too, as we are exploring these energies and connections and everything and making friendships and stuff in this point. And give us your feedback. Let us know what's working for you. If you're intrigued by this, if you're on that journey, if you've already tried it, if you had success, not success, you know, let us know in the comments. And thank you again for tuning in. Is there anything else lastly you want to say, Kirti? Or
I just wanted to, I guess, share appreciation for you, you know, and just wanted to celebrate that we chose to do this together, and it's been rocky, but even the rocky moments, like looking back, are highlights. And thank you for that, and thank you for holding the space for all my whiling out and my venting. I did a lot, and there were a lot of times that I didn't even set container and ask you for permission, and I did it, and you still took it.
I appreciate that.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And thank you for allowing me too to have my times. You know, as a man, there's not many times where in this culture that we get a chance to vent, you know, because it's looked at as being weak or, you know, just suck it up. So I appreciate those times when you know, let me bend your ear a little bit, and then you're able to give it back to me. But at least in that process we're able to alchemize it.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate it. And also putting up with my, you know, clarifying and getting better at coming to you with my truths.
Yeah.
Not a half truth or 3/4 of a truth, but the whole truths about what I'm feeling and everything, and getting better and better with that. You know, just working through my little boy stuff. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. No doubt. So, and y'all, we appreciate y'all. Thank you for checking us out. You know, rocking with us. This is going to be an ongoing topic, like we said. Shout out to Progressive Love Academy. You can find them on Instagram. And thank you all for checking us out. Again, I'm Faux Show Energy Work. Shofar from Faux Show Energy Work.
And I'm Kirti from Dilse Culture.
And we do coaching for couples and singles. We do coaching we do energy work for couples and singles. I have a book, Sacred Orgasmic Living, Soul. And then also we do workshops, Hip Hop Kundalini, Intimate Relating. You know, Intimate Relating has a couple of different series, Vibe and Kiss. So check us out, y'all. If you have any more questions or want to just connect, reach out. Peace.
Peace.